Imam Musa ibn Jafar, also known as Kadhim, was born on the 7th of Safar in the year 128 Hijri. He was born at Al-Abwa, a place between Mecca and Medina where the tomb of Amina, the Prophet's mother, is located. He was born when his parents were returning from Hajj. He was the third son of Imam Sadiq after his brothers Ismail and Abdullah. Imam Sadiq was very grateful for the birth of his son Musa and celebrated by throwing a feast for 3 consecutive days upon returning to Medina. His mother was Hamida. She was very pious and knowledgeable, and Imam Sadiq referred the women of the community to her to ask their questions regarding Islamic law. Imam Kadhim was about 4 years old when the Umayyad Caliphate was overthrown by the Abbasid Caliphate. Contrary to the Umayyads, the Abbasids, who were the descendants of Abbas, the Prophet's uncle, were proud of being from the Prophet's tribe of Banu Hashim. They used their relationship with the Prophet to legitimize their government. They would respect the Prophet in their speech and had an Islamic outlook for their government. However, the Abbasids' crimes and murders against the people, as well as the Prophet's lineage, outnumbered the Umayyads' crimes. The number of people they killed to stabilize their government was far more than the people who were killed by the Umayyads. The Shia Imams at the time of the Abbasids had more difficulties and challenges to falsify their legitimacy for the Caliphate and reveal their true intentions for the Muslims. Mansur was the second caliph of the Abbasids after his brother Safar. During Safar's short government of less than 5 years, the main goal of the newly established Abbasids government was to remove the remaining Umayyads and suppress their potential uprisal. After succeeding in this goal, the next Abbasid Caliph, Mansur, implemented a tyrannical and oppressive regime to remove all other potential threats to the Abbasid government. He killed Abu Muslim and came into various battles with his opponents in Iran, Syria, Hijaz, and Iraq, including the uprisals of Muhammad al-Nafs al-Zakiyah and his brother Ibrahim. He finally made himself the sole powerful ruler in the Islamic territory by murdering thousands of people. He also constructed the city of Baghdad as a capital for his government to show off his power. Mansur was heartless, bloodthirsty, and very stingy. Mansur's policy was to put excessive economical pressure on the people to keep them hungry and thus make them obedient to himself. Furthermore, the hungry people would only struggle about feeding their own stomachs and would not have the opportunity for any political activities. Ismail was the oldest son of Imam Sadiq and was very pious and respected by the Imam. Many thought that Ismail would be the next Imam after Imam Sadiq, as Imamate had passed down to the oldest son in the past from Imam Sajjad to Imam Bakr and from Imam Bakr to Imam Sadiq. During the time when the Imam's activities were under intense surveillance by Mansur's spies and his own life was in danger, the Imam couldn't publicly introduce the next Imam. Any public announcement of this news would put the life of his successor in danger. The Imam had introduced his younger son Imam Musa al-Kadhim as his successor in the Imamate only to his very close companions. Ismail passed away during the life of Imam Sadiq, about 6 years before the Imam's martyrdom. The Imam, who knew that some might be misled about Ismail's death in the future, showed the body of Ismail to as many as 30 of his companions and asked them to testify in his death. Also, when the Imam and the other Muslims were sorrowfully taking Ismail's body for burial in the Baqi cemetery, the Imam would order to stop the procession and would uncover Ismail's face for the crowd to observe his corpse. The Imam repeated this action multiple times during the funeral. However, after Imam Sadiq's martyrdom, some rejected Ismail's demise and assumed him to be the promised Mahdi that had disappeared from their eyes. Some others accepted Ismail's demise, but believed in the continuation of Imamate from his lineage. Thus, they do not follow Imam Kazim as the 7th Imam. These people are known as the Ismailis, which is one of the surviving factions of Shiaism until today. The Ismailis initially had a small group of followers, and thus began to propagate their faith. However, around 2 centuries later, they gained power by establishing Fatimids government in Egypt and North Africa. Upon gaining power, they extensively propagated their beliefs all around the Islamic territory and increased their followers. Mansur, who had plotted to murder Imam Sadiq on several occasions, finally ordered Muhammad ibn Sulaiman, his governor in Medina, to poison the Imam. Imam Sadiq's martyrdom brought grief to the entire city of Medina, and the people came in crowds to his funeral. Imam Kadhim took care of his father's funeral and buried him in the Baqi cemetery by his father Imam Bakr, his grandfather Imam Sajjad, and his great-uncle Imam Hassan. When Mansur received news of the martyrdom of Imam Sadiq from his governor Muhammad ibn Sulaiman, he expressed sorrow and admitted that no one would ever replace him. However, Mansur wanted to terminate the chain of the imamate after Imam Sadiq. He sent a message to his governor to inquire about whom Imam Sadiq had selected as the successor in his will. Mansur had ordered his governor to catch the Imam's successor and behead him. Imam Sadiq, who had predicted such a situation, had named 5 people as his successor in his will: the Caliph Mansur, the governor of Medina Muhammad ibn Sulaiman, 2 of his sons Abdullah and Imam Kazim, and Imam Sadiq's wife and mother of Imam Kazim, Hamida. When Mansur heard about the Imam's will, he cancelled his initial order. Imam Sadiq, with this clever trick, not only saved his true successor, Imam Kazim, but also made it clear for his prominent followers to recognize him. This is because his followers knew that the Abbasids' caliph and governors were oppressors and were disqualified for imamate. Also, a female could not become an imam. His oldest son Abdullah could not be qualified either, since he had a physical disability in his leg and had limited religious knowledge. He could not respond to the questions raised by the people and Imam Sadiq's companions. Abdullah passed away shortly within 70 days from Imam Sadiq's martyrdom. Thus, all indications for imamate were towards the qualifications of Imam Kazim. There was an unprecedented suppressive regime dominated in the society at the time of Imam Sadiq's martyrdom. Mansur's agents and spies were looking to identify and kill the Shia followers of Imam Sadiq. The Shias could not even hold a small gathering to discuss the next Imam. Imam Kazim could not directly call the people to his imamate, as this could lead to his martyrdom. The claim of imamate by the Imam's older brother Abdullah was also another reason for the people's confusion in finding the true Imam of the time. Mansur had provided freedom for Abdullah to claim his imamate, as this had caused division among the Shia community and would benefit his government. Although Imam Sadiq in his will had indirectly specified Imam Kazim as the next Imam, there was still confusion among the Shias about the next Imam. This was to an extent that even some of the Imam Sadiq's loyal companions did not know the Imam of their time. On an occasion after the martyrdom of Imam Sadiq, 2 of his loyal companions, Hisham ibn Salim and Mu'min at-Takh, were looking to find their next Imam. They initially referred to Imam Sadiq's oldest son Abdullah and tested him with a question. Abdullah's response was quite different from the teachings of Imam Sadiq. They left Abdullah as they were really confused about whom to follow and which theological belief they should choose. Suddenly, an old man hinted at them to follow him. They became scared and thought he might be one of Mansur's spies whose intention was to kill them. Thus, to take precaution, only Hisham ibn Salim followed the old man. The old man was Imam Kazim's envoy and brought Hisham to Imam Kazim. The Imam greeted Hisham and began his conversation by addressing Hisham's concern without him telling the Imam anything which showed the Imam's knowledge of the unseen. The Imam told him not to follow any theological belief, but refer to me. Hisham then asked the Imam some questions and found the Imam's response in accordance with the teachings of Imam Sadiq. Hisham, who witnessed the Imam as the ocean of knowledge, testified to his imamate. He then asked the Imam for permission to guide the Shias to him. The Imam only permitted him to guide the mature and trustworthy Shias to him, with the condition to promise to keep his imamate hidden. The Imam, while referring to his neck, told Hisham that if his imamate is revealed, it will lead to his beheading. Although the notable companions of Imam Sadiq believed in the imamate of Imam Kazim, Abdullah could still gather groups of Shias around himself. However, Abdullah passed away after a short period of around 70 days from the martyrdom of Imam Sadiq. He did not have any son to claim the imamate after him. This caused the majority of his followers to return to Imam Kazim and accept his imamate. By Imam Sadiq's martyrdom, the Islamic University, which was established in Medina by Imam Bakr and was expanded to its prosperity by Imam Sadiq, gradually closed. This was due to extensive fear dominated in the society by Mansur. No one would dare to share his identity as a Shia or associate himself to Imam Sadiq or Imam Kazim. However, During the Imamate of Imam Kazim for around 35 years, there were times when the people could refer to the Imam and ask him questions. Depending on the political situation and the pressure of the government on the Imam, the people would refer to the Imam in various numbers to benefit from him. More than 3,000 of the Imam's narrations are currently collected and compiled in the book known as Musnad al-Imam Kazim. The Imam also trained many notable scholars. Today, 6 of Imam Kazim's companions, along with 12 of Imam Bakr and Imam Sadiq's companions, are regarded as Ashab-e-Ijma, or companions of the consensus. These 18 companions are the most authenticate companions of the Shia Imams, whose narrations are regarded with the highest level of trust by the scholars in the seminaries. After Mansur, his son Muhammad assumed power. Muhammad was given the title of Mahdi by his father Mansur to draw more attentions from the Muslims to the Abbasid government. This was due to a widely accepted narration from the Prophet, which promised the appearance of a Mahdi from his lineage whose name would be the same as the Prophet's name. He would appear as the savior in a world filled with injustice and oppression. Mansur had followed the footsteps of Abdullah ibn Hassan, who had given the title of Mahdi to his son Muhammad al-Nafs al-Zakiyah. Mansur, whose original name was Abdullah, named his son Muhammad and called him with the title of Mahdi to exploit the Prophet's narration in his favor. Mahdi inherited a vast and stable government which was the result of his father Mansur's brutal strategies. In one of his wills to Mahdi, Mansur mentioned that he has prepared the smooth transition of government to Mahdi by making the people classified in 3 groups: the poor and needy who need him for help, the fugitives who are constantly looking for a shelter to save their lives, and the prisoners who request their freedom. At the time of Mahdi, the Abbasids had some victories in expanding their territory in the current-day Turkey. At the beginning of Mahdi's government, he was lenient in treating the people and the Prophet's lineage. Mahdi was looking to gather legitimacy for his new government after years of tyranny and suppressive government by his father Mansur. He distributed a large amount of stored wealth in Bayt al-Mal among the people. He freed the prisoners and returned the properties that Mansur had forcefully confiscated from the people. He also returned the properties that Mansur had seized from Imam Sadiq to Imam Kazim. Imam Kazim knew that Mahdi's policy is solely to stabilize his government. Once, the Imam came to Mahdi while he was returning the unlawfully confiscated wealth to their owners. The Imam asked Mahdi, "Why don't you return the land of Fakh to us?" He asked the Imam to define the boundaries of Fakh. The Imam defined the limits of Fakh as the 4 corners of the Islamic world of that time. With this response, the Imam implied that the entire Islamic kingdom belongs to him and the Abbasids' government is illegitimate. Mahdi, who was shocked and nervous by the Imam's response, left his place. With the passing of time, Mahdi became suspicious of Imam Kazim, as more and more people were getting introduced to him as the Imam. Mahdi summoned the Imam from Medina to his palace in Baghdad and imprisoned him. After a short period, he decided to finish the Imam. However, Mahdi saw Imam Ali in his dream, who recited to him the following verse of the Quran.
فهل عسيتم إن توليتم أن تفسدوا في الأرض وتقطعوا أرحامكم.
May it not be that if you were to wield authority, you would cause corruption in the land and ill-treat your blood relations? Mahdi got scared from his dream, understood that the addressee of Imam Ali in his dream was Imam Kazim, as he was from the children of Imam Ali and also had family relation with the Abbasids. Thus, Mahdi called Imam Kazim from the prison and greeted him with respect. He then asked the Imam to pledge that he would not uprise against him nor any of his children. The Imam responded that he does not have any intention for an uprising, and this is not his tradition. Mahdi then released the Imam with respect, and the Imam returned to Medina. For the rest of Mahdi's government, there are no historical evidence of any action by Mahdi against the Imam. After Mahdi, his son Hadi, who was just around 25 years old, assumed power. He was very rude, harsh, heartless, and biased. He had kept himself busy with amusement and music parties, and would give huge wealth from the public Bayt al-Mal to the famous singers for his amusement. At this time, Hadi put substantial amount of pressure on the Prophet's lineage and the children of Imam Ali in Medina. He cut their allowances from Bayt al-Mal. He also chose someone from the descendants of the second Caliph as the governor of Medina, who was known to be hostile to the Prophet's lineage. The governor forced them to show up at a governmental facility every night to confirm their presence in Medina. In the case of an absence of someone, he would summon the other ones of them and intimidate them for their lives and wealth. Hadi's harsh policies against the Prophet's lineage motivated them for an uprisal against the Abbasids and their unjust government. The Prophet's lineage came around Hussein ibn Ali, who was one of their elders with great personality. Hussein ibn Ali was from the descendants of Imam Hassan and had witnessed long-standing oppressions from the Abbasids on the Prophet's lineage. They encouraged him to initiate an uprisal, and he finally accepted. He initiated his uprisal in Medina and conquered the city. He freed the prisoners and imprisoned Abbasid agents. He then moved his troops of about 300 soldiers to Mecca to use the upcoming Hajj season as an opportunity to recruit from the Muslims and expand his uprisal. He eventually came to a battle with the Abbasid army of around 4,000 soldiers at a valley named Fakh outside Mecca and was defeated and martyred. Many of the Prophet's descendants who were in his troops were also martyred along with him. He was then named as the Martyr of Fakh after the place he was martyred at. This incident was the hardest incident for the Prophet's lineage after the tragedy of Karbala. Imam Kazim had confirmed the uprisal of Hussein, the martyr of Fakh. The Imam had informed him about his fate of martyrdom in his uprisal. However, the Imam, who had witnessed his strong will for uprisal, advised him to be strong and persistent in his chosen destiny and wished him a great reward from God. Also, when the Imam received news of martyrdom of Hussein, he cried and expressed his sorrow by saying that Hussein was a righteous believer and unique in his family. The Imam testified that Hussein was martyred while he was inviting the people to good and forbidding them from the evil. When the hostages and the heads of martyrs arrived at Hadi's palace in Baghdad, he ordered to behead the hostages and hang their bodies in the city. He also became angry and accused Imam Kazim of providing hidden authority and guidance for this uprisal. Hadi claimed that Hussein, the martyr of Fakh, followed Imam Kazim's order for the uprisal, as the Imam was the most well-known character in the Prophet's lineage. He then vowed firmly to kill and finish the Imam. Ali ibn Yaqtin was a loyal companion of the Imam who held a high-ranking position in the Abbasid government. He sent a letter to the Imam informing him about Hadi's absolute decision to kill him. The Imam showed Ali's letter to his family and close companions, and they urged him to hide or escape from the persecution of Hadi. However, the Imam responded that he has sought refuge to God by reciting the Joshin Saghir supplication, and the Prophet had told him in his dream about Hadi's death. The Imam told him that the news of Hadi's death will arrive to Medina by the first coming messenger from Iraq, which exactly happened as the Imam predicted. Thus, Hadi passed away suddenly before being able to martyr the Imam, and after a short government of just 14 months. The Imam was aware of animosity against him among the Abbasid's family and government and the life threats that endangered him from them. To save himself from further persecution of the Abbasids, the Imam sent a letter to Khaysuran, the mother of Hadi, and expressed his condolences to her for the death of Hadi. She was one of the most influential characters in the Abbasid family. However, she had hostility with her son Hadi on his rulership and had preferred her younger son Haroon for the caliphate. The Imam's action was effective to prohibit the Abbasids from taking any action against him. This was especially the case as Haroon replaced his brother Hadi as the next Abbasid caliph, and Khaysuran's decision-making influence in the Abbasids government substantially increased. After the Battle of Fakh, the Prophet's descendants lost hope to resist against the Abbasids in Hijaz. Idris ibn Abdullah, the brother of Muhammad al-Nafs al-Zakiyah, was one of the survivors from the Battle of Fakh who escaped to the corner of the Abbasid government at northwestern Africa. With the aid from the local tribes, Idris could establish the autonomous Idrisid government at present-day Morocco and some parts of Algeria. Although the Idrisids became the first government established by the Prophet's descendants, there are no historical evidence approving their government by the Shia Imams. The Idrisid government lasted for around 2 centuries in that region. Idrisids, along with the government of the Umayyads remaining at Andalus in the current Spain, became 2 autonomous governments from the Abbasids in the western boundary of the Islamic territory. The long distance between the Abbasid capital al-Baghdad and the Idrisid territory limited their ability to defeat the Idrisid government by military operation. After Hadi, his brother Haroon assumed power, who was just 25 years old. He portrayed himself as a religious person, while he was very heartless and cruel in his rulership. Haroon inherited a large, stable and rich government from northern Africa to India. He, like his brother Hadi, had kept himself busy with amusement and music parties and would give huge wealth from the public Bayt al-Mal to the famous singers for his amusement. For young Haroon, his government was practically managed by his mother Khayzuran and his minister Yahya ibn Khalid Barmaki. In the beginning of Haroon's government, he was lenient with the Imam. He himself knew that the Imam was in the heart of the people as the leader, and he was just a ruler overcoming them by sword and force. The Imam tried not to give Haroon any excuse to harass or kill him, as he was the only source of guidance in the society. The Imam also did not initiate any uprisal against Haroon, as he had pledged to his father Mahdi in the years back to not uprise against Mahdi or any of his children. However, the Imam would not accept Haroon as a righteous caliph and would stand against his conspiracies to deceive the people by portraying an Islamic outlook for himself and undermining the status of the Imam. The Abbasids, who were proud of being related to the Prophet, exploited and abused this relation to deceive the people and to legitimize their own government. However, this deception was not going to work for Imam Kazim and the other descendants of the Prophet, as they were closer in relation to the Prophet than the Abbasids. There are multiple occasions when the Imam confronted Haroon, and there were serious debates between them regarding their relationship to the Prophet. Once, Haroon asked the Imam why he had claimed to have a closer blood relation to the Prophet than the Abbasids. In return, the Imam said to Haroon that if the Prophet were to resurrect from his tomb and propose to your daughter, would you accept? Absolutely, Haroon responded with excitement. Haroon then continued to say that he would be proud among all the Muslims for such a marriage. The Imam then said that the Prophet would not propose to marry my daughter, as he would be her grandfather, and such a marriage is forbidden in Islam. Haroon, who was shocked by the Imam's logical answer, admitted that the Imam is correct. Haroon then asked the Imam why he had claimed to be from the Prophet's lineage, while the Prophet did not leave behind any sons. Haroon explicitly asked the Imam to convince him with Quranic evidence. The Imam asked Haroon about the Prophet Jesus' father. Haroon responded that the Prophet Jesus didn't have a father. The Imam then said that the Prophet Jesus has been named as an offspring of the Prophet Abraham and the other prophets in the Quran through his mother, Lady Mary. The Imam then said, similar to the Prophet Jesus, we are the offspring of the Prophet and are related to him through our mother, Lady Fatima. The Imam then asked Haroon if he was interested to hear more evidence from the Quran, and Haroon approved. The Imam then referred to the verse of Mubahala in the Quran. The Imam said that no single Muslim have ever claimed that the Prophet took anyone else with himself for Mubahala against the Christians other than Imam Ali, the Lady Fatima, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. The Imam then said that according to the verse of Mubahala, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein are named as the sons of the Prophet. The Imam thus concluded that the children of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein are indeed the Prophet's lineage. Haroon, who was completely convinced by the Imam's Quranic reasonings, admitted that the Imam's answer was correct. One important event that occurred during the government of Haroon was the discovery of the hidden tomb of Imam Ali in Najaf. The Shia Imams knew its hidden location and had kept it a secret. They had revealed it only to their close companions. This location was hidden from the public for about 130 years until the government of Haroon. During this long period, the holy tomb of Imam Ali was saved from the revengeful actions of the Khawarij and the Umayyads, who had hatreds against Imam Ali's justice. For example, during the government of Hajjaj in Kufa, around 3,000 tombs were excavated by his order to find the tomb of Imam Ali in order to disrespect it. Finally, at the time of Haroon, no serious threat was facing to the revealed tomb of Imam Ali. At this time, the Khawarij ideology was weakened, and their activities were limited to the boundaries of the Islamic territory at northern Iraq, Khorasan, and Sistan. Also, the Umayyads were overthrown by the Abbasids, who were proud of being related to the Prophet and Imam Ali. Thus, Haroon ordered to construct a building on the tomb of Imam Ali. To meet the needs of the growing Shia community, Imam Sadiq had established a networking organization of his trusted companions as his representatives in various cities around the Islamic territory. Imam Kazim took advantage of this organization effectively during his imamate. He began by proving himself as the next Imam for the representatives who had traveled to Medina to transfer the Muslims' charity dues and asking their Islamic questions from him. At the time, the Abbasid spies were intensely monitoring the Imam's activities, and there were serious life threats for him. The Imam could not be the center for the communication with his Shia followers. The Abbasid rulers were particularly in great fear for allowing the transfer of the Muslims' charity dues to the Imam in Medina, as they thought this could facilitate the Imam's potential for an uprisal against them. Thus, the Imam expanded this organization as an effective method of leading the Shia community. The Imam would guide his representatives on how to spend the Muslim charity dues and would respond to their questions by letter. The Imam had also advised his representatives to avoid meeting him directly in Medina, but instead contact his chosen representative in Medina, Fazl ibn Umar. Overall, many aspects of this organization have not been recorded in history due to the hidden nature of this organization. At the time of Haroon, there was an excessive pressure and surveillance on Imam Kazim and his Shia followers by the government. The Imam had introduced the Abbasids as an oppressive government and had given strict advice to his followers to avoid any relationship with them. The Imam did not even allow simple business deals with the government. In one incident, the Imam confronted one of his companions who had rented his camels to Haroon for traveling to Mecca to perform Hajj. The Imam told him, "By this rental, you will be waiting for Haroon to return safely from his travel to pay you off for your rental wage and return your camel." The Imam then said that anyone who expects them to be alive or from them and their eternal place in hereafter is in hellfire along with them. By this strict advice, the Imam's companion sold all of his camels to avoid getting in business with the government. Despite the general order of the Imam to boycott any relationship with the oppressive Abbasid government, the Imam allowed for involvement in some sensitive positions in the government by his pious companions. This was one of the Imam's important strategies in leading the Shia community. The Imam's intentions for this exception was to save the wealth and lives of his Shia followers from persecution and oppression of the government. One of these pious companions of the Imam was Ali ibn Yaqtin. He became close to the government due to his father's loyalty and status to the Abbasid government. However, Ali ibn Yaqtin was different as compared to his father. He was a loyal companion of the Imam. With the Imam's approval, Ali ibn Yaqtin held a high-ranking position in the Abbasids' government, including Haroon's government. Ali ibn Yaqtin wanted to resign from his position on multiple occasions. However, the Imam asked him to stay in his position, and he obeyed. The Imam had guaranteed him that he will not be killed with the sword of the enemy or be jailed, and he will not become poor. The Imam in return asked him to respect any of his Shia followers who came to him in the government. Ali ibn Yaqtin used his position to help the Shias and save their lives and wealth from the oppression of the Abbasids. For example, he would secretively return illegitimate taxes that the government was taking forcefully from the Shias. He would also send his Islamic obligatory dues to the Imam in Medina or spend it according to the Imam's guidance. For example, he was donating a large amount of money by sending a few hundreds of Shias to Hajj annually and would pay a large allowance for each of them. The Imam in return saved him on various occasions from the conspiracies and the plots of the Abbasids against him. The Imam would meet his representatives outside Medina, return his valuable gift back to him, or send him specific instruction on performing his religious ritual to save him from the Abbasids, who would become suspicious of him from time to time. After years of being in power, Haroon began laying the groundwork to keep the Abbasid government in his own lineage. He selected his son Amin as his successor and his other son Mamun as Amin's successor. He was very concerned about the social popularity of the Imam and its consequences in his son's future government. Any minor excuse was enough to trigger him to take an action against the Imam. This excuse was given to him by his minister Yahya ibn Khalid bin Mahdi, who became jealous of Amin's selected private teacher. Yahya was afraid of losing influence in Amin's future government. This was especially the case since Yahya himself was the teacher of Haroon in the past during his childhood and knew the importance of this position. Thus, he frequently talked ill about the selected teacher to Haroon and labeled him as a Shia follower of Imam Kazim. However, he failed to prove his accusation to Haroon. Yahya's conspiracy instead caused Haroon to investigate the Imam's whereabouts. Yahya made a plot with Muhammad ibn Ismail, the Imam's nephew, who was poor and prone to bad decisions. Yahya brought him from Medina to Baghdad before Haroon. Muhammad ibn Ismail, who was bribed by Yahya, said to Haroon that I didn't think that the world has two caliphs, you in Baghdad and my uncle Musa ibn Jafar in Medina. He said that the Muslims from all over the Islamic territory sent their obligatory Islamic dues to the Imam in Medina. He accused the Imam for collecting a large wealth. Furthermore, he accused the Imam of establishing his own government by accusing him to print his name on the coins of his wealth. In this meeting, Haroon promised Muhammad ibn Ismail with a significant reward. However, Muhammad ibn Ismail died by a sudden illness before receiving his reward. Yahya's conspiracy triggered Haroon to take an action against the Imam. Haroon, who wanted to get the Muslims' allegiance for the nomination of his son Amin as successor, called the Muslims to Mecca for Hajj. On his way to Hajj, he stopped by Medina to arrest the Imam. He first decided to justify his action against the Imam in the eyes of Muslims. Thus, when he was visiting the tomb of the Holy Prophet, he addressed the Prophet and said loudly that, "I am sorry about my decision against Musa ibn Jafar. I want to imprison him, as I am afraid that he would make a riot that perished the bloods of your nation." On the following day, Haroon ordered for the Imam's arrest. The Imam was caught by Haroon's soldiers in the Prophet's mosque while he was praying next to the Prophet's tomb. The soldiers broke the Imam's prayers and forcefully moved the Imam to outside of the mosque and brought him before Haroon. Haroon insulted and disrespected the Imam. He then ordered for preparation of 2 caravans towards Iraq, one towards Basra and the other to Kufa. His intention was to make the Imam's destination unknown and confront any attempt by the Imam's followers to release him. Furthermore, the long transfer time of the Imam from Medina to Basra, which took around 47 days, shows that the government feared from the attempts to release the Imam from captivity. They must have transferred the Imam from the local roads or have taken non-straight travel paths. The Imam was finally brought to Basra as a captive and was received by Haroon's cousin and Basra's governor, Isa ibn Jafar. Isa ibn Jafar imprisoned the Imam in a cell inside his own house. The Imam was kept in this prison for around a year. The door of his cell would open twice in each day, once for delivering food and once to allow him to refresh his ablution. Isa ibn Jafar was a corrupt character who would hold music and dance parties in his house. The Imam was harassed in this prison by the loud sounds of these parties. The Imam's activities and prayers were under intense surveillance by Isa ibn Jafar's agents. One of these agents who had narrated that the Imam would repeatedly recite the following sentence in his prayers to God: "O my Lord, I used to ask you constantly to bless me with a quiet corner to pray, and now I am thankful of you for fulfilling my request." Haroon frequently asked Isa ibn Jafar to kill the Imam. However, he didn't accept Haroon's order, as he didn't want to take the responsibility and the blame for killing the Imam. His friends also advised him to do the same. After a year, Isa ibn Jafar sent a letter to Haroon and complained to him about the lengthy imprisonment of the Imam in his house. He told Haroon that he will not kill the Imam, and if Haroon doesn't transfer the Imam, he would release him. He reminded Haroon that he was closely watching the Imam and had witnessed him in constant prayer. He also told Haroon that the Imam had never cursed nor said anything bad against anyone, including Haroon, in his prayers. When Haroon received the letter of Isa ibn Jafar, he sent a delegate to transfer the Imam to Baghdad. They transferred the Imam to one of Haroon's loyal politicians, Fazl ibn Rabi, who was the son of Rabi, one of the most trustees of the Abbasid caliphs. Fazl ibn Rabi imprisoned the Imam in a cell in his house and secretly monitored all of his activities. Fazl ibn Rabi witnessed that the Imam fasted every day. He also witnessed that, except for a small part of the night, the Imam was in constant prayers and long prostrations. Haroon would frequently go to the roof of the Imam's cell to spy on him in person. From the opening of the roof, he would only see a part of the Imam's dress on the ground. He would then ask where the Imam is in the cell. He would be responded that the dress is actually the Imam. He is in long prostrations, continuously from sunrise to noon. When Haroon was asked, "If you know the Imam's conditions, why do you still keep him in the prison?" Haroon responded that "I don't have any other choice, and the Imam's imprisonment is better for my government." After a while, Fazl ibn Rabi became influenced by the Imam's character and prayers. He refused Haroon's orders to finish the Imam. Haroon, who was disappointed at Fazl ibn Rabi, ordered to transfer the Imam in Baghdad to the house of Fazl ibn Yahya. He was one of Haroon's loyal politicians and the son of his famous minister, Yahya ibn Khalid Barmaki. The Imam's character and prayers had a great influence on the heart of his prison keepers. Although Yahya ibn Khalid Barmaki encouraged Haroon to imprison the Imam, his son Fazl ibn Yahya, who was keeping the Imam in his custody, was influenced by the Imam's character. Fazl ibn Yahya witnessed the Imam in long prayers, prostration, and constant fasting. He then changed his treatment to the Imam and provided him with respect and comfort. When Haroon received the news that the Imam is in comfort, he became angry and ordered to punish Fazl ibn Yahya by lashes. He also ordered to transfer the Imam in Baghdad to one of his most heartless and obedient agents, Sandi ibn Shahak, who is the head of the police in Baghdad. Imprisonment of the Imam in the house of Sandi ibn Shahak was the hardest among his other imprisonments. Sandi ibn Shahak was a heartless army leader who would obey Haroon's orders blindly. Despite the harsh treatment from Sandi ibn Shahak, the Imam's presence had influenced anyone who would meet him. Ironically, Sandi's own family members were among those who were influenced and guided by the Imam. In the years later, Sandi's grandson Khashogim became a great Shia poet and scholar who would publicly recite poetry in the eulogy of the Shia Imams. After a few years of imprisonment, Haroon was determined to do anything to defame the Imam in the eyes of the Muslims. One of his plots was to attract the Imam towards himself to legitimize his government. He sent a messenger to the Imam in the prison. The Imam completely ignored the presence of the messenger and continued his long prayers. After a while, the messenger got worried that his long stay might make Haroon suspicious and angry. He then began talking immediately between the Imam's prayers. He told the Imam that Haroon had brought him to Iraq because of ill talks against him. However, as far as Haroon had investigated, he found the Imam innocent and all the rumors against the Imam as lies. He said that Haroon prefers to keep the Imam near him as this will give peace to his heart. He then said that Haroon likes to provide the Imam with any food that the Imam desires. The Imam responded with just a concise sentence: "My wealth is not with me to benefit me, and I am not created to ask." The Imam then immediately started his next prayer. The Imam's reaction showed Haroon that even after years of imprisonment, the Imam would not surrender to him. On another occasion, Haroon forcefully sent a female slave into the Imam's cell. His ill intention was to have her as a witness to speak against the Imam's character in the public. However, she was influenced by the Imam's prayers and divine personality. After a while, Haroon was informed that she is a different person. She was constantly in prostration and was asking forgiveness from God. When she was brought to Haroon, he accused the Imam of doing magic to her. However, she confronted Haroon and spoke positively about the Imam and testified in the Imam's divine character. Haroon, who initially wanted to have her as a witness against the Imam, now had to ask someone from his close ones to hide her from the public. She was a pious servant of God until her very last breath. In another occasion, the Imam sent a letter to Haroon from the prison. The Imam told Haroon that every hard day that passes on him, the same day also passes from Haroon's happy days until an upcoming day when both will meet in the hereafter. The Imam continued to say that on that day, the followers of falsehood will admit to their losses. The Imam's message showed Haroon that the Imam will not beg for his freedom and will resist against all of the inflicted calamities until his martyrdom. After around 4 years of the Imam's imprisonment, Haroon, who was completely hopeless to break the Imam's resistivity against his government, decided to kill the Imam. He left Baghdad to a faraway city of Raqqa in current Syria to show himself as innocent in the Imam's martyrdom. He sent his minister Yahya ibn Khalid Barmaki to Baghdad with a secret mission to poison the Imam. Yahya's motivation for this mission was to gain Haroon's trust, as Haroon was disappointed from Yahya's son Fazl ibn Yahya due to how he had honored the Imam during the Imam's imprisonment in his house. Yahya delivered Haroon's order to Sandi ibn Shahak and gave him poisonous dates. Sandi served the poisonous dates to the Imam, which led to his martyrdom. Immediately after poisoning the Imam before his martyrdom, Sandi wanted to portray to the public that the Imam's martyrdom was a natural death. He moved the Imam to a comfortable setting with nice carpets. He then gathered a group of around 80 people from the scholars and the elders of Baghdad in his house. He made them face to face with the Imam and asked them to testify that the Imam was physically safe and unharmed. He told them that the people think we are hurting Musa ibn Jafar, but as you see, he is healthy and in comfort, and we have only kept him here until Haroon returns to Baghdad to speak and debate with him. However, the Imam unexpectedly began to talk and told them that he was just poisoned and would pass away in 3 days. By the Imam's words, Sandi became nervous and his plot failed. After 3 days from the Imam's poisoning, his soul ascended. He was martyred on the 25th of Rajab in the year 183 of Hijri in Baghdad at the age of 55. After the Imam's martyrdom, Sendi still wanted to complete his previously unsuccessful plot of portraying a natural death for the Imam's martyrdom for the people. He gathered more than 50 people in his house who all knew the Imam. He showed the Imam's body to them and asked them to testify that there is no sign of injury or suffocation on his body. Sendi then ordered just 4 of his soldiers to take the Imam's corpse in the streets of Baghdad to insult the Imam and his Shia followers. He asked his soldiers to announce loudly in the streets of Baghdad that anyone who wants to see the body of the vicious son of the vicious, come to us as we are carrying the body of the Imam of Rafidi. The Rafidi was an insulting title they would use for the Shias. The people would come to see the Imam's corpse and witness that his body does not have any sign of torture or injury. Haroon's uncle, Suleiman ibn Abi Jafar, one of the most influential members of the Abbasid royal family, was in his palace by the Tigris River when he heard the turmoil and the people's voices. He inquired and was informed about Sendi's action of insulting the Imam's corpse. He condemned Sendi's action and found it politically incorrect and dangerous for Haroon's government. Though he did not believe in the imamat of Imam Kazim, he was afraid that Sendi's action could trigger Shias who were in large number in Baghdad and the other cities to uprise against the government. Thus, he sent his agents to take the Imam's corpse from Sendi's soldiers and even advised them to use enforcement if needed. He himself then came on barefoot for the burial of the Imam. He asked his agents to announce in the city that anyone who wants to look at the face of the blessed, son of the blessed, come and look at the face of Musa ibn Jafar. The crowds of Muslims then came for the Imam's burial in a large number, and a respectful burial ceremony was performed for the Imam. The crowd carried the Imam's corpse towards one of the city's graveyards that belonged to the Quraysh tribe that the Imam, the Abbasids, and Banu Hashim were belonged to it and respectfully buried the Imam. Haroon received the news about the Imam's martyrdom and burial. To pretend that he was innocent, he sent a letter to his uncle, Suleiman ibn Abi Jafar, and praised his actions of burying the Imam respectfully. In his letter, Haroon cursed Sendi ibn Shahak for his actions during the Imam's burial and said that Sendi has acted based on his own decision, without any approval from him.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد